Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. You can download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. Now the news info. The Nigerian Senate has postponed the Northwest Zonal public hearing on the review of the 1999 Constitution scheduled for this weekend in Kano. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, said the postponement is in honor of Alhaji Aminu Dantata, who died on Sunday. Over now to Kike Lomo Okere for more details.
Briefing his colleagues, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, says his deputy, who is the chairman Committee on Constitution Review, Jibril Barao, is in Saudi Arabia for the burial rites of the late philanthropist. He says the hearing will be held on a later date as agreed by stakeholders in the region.
The Senate resolved to observe 1 minute silence in honor of the late Alhaji Aminu Dantata, and also resolved to postpone the Zonal Constitutional Conference of the Northwest to a date to be mutually agreed between the stakeholders of the Northwest as soon as the Deputy Senate President is back from Saudi Arabia.
Akpabio, however, explained that the public hearing on the review of the Constitution will take place in the remaining 5 geopolitical zones. According to the timetable, the exercise will take place in Borno, Plateau, Enugu, Akwa Ibom, and Lagos states, respectively. Kike Lomo Okere, Global Television News.
President Bola Tinubu has been conferred an honorary knighthood by the government of St. Lucia during his state visit to the country. The title Knight Commander of the Order of St. Lucia was approved by the Governor General of St. Lucia after advice from Prime Minister Philip J. Perret, as announced by the office of the country's Prime Minister. The visit marks the first step in his two-nation tour of the Caribbean and South America. Still on, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has commissioned the newly constructed Collector Road CNS Asukwa Okon Street from Ateneo Road 5 Obafemi Awolowo Way to Ateneo Road 1 and other roads connected in Dagbuyu's district. The President was represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima. Our FCT correspondent Godwin Sunday tells us more.
The rains came clapping, thunders resounding, as Dakibiu, Jabi and its environs came alive to the commissioning of the newly constructed road by President Bola Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima. The road network, lights, drainage and telecommunication enhancements are milestones that will serve as a benchmark for the FCT development. While speaking at the commissioning, President Bola Tinubu, represented by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, reiterated the government's commitment to the improvement of infrastructures across Nigeria.
The dividends of this project are immediate and enduring. Commutes will shorten, congestions will ease, and most critically, livelihoods will flourish. Shops will open, markets will thrive, children will reach schools faster, emergency services will arrive quicker. This is what we mean when we speak of renewed hope.
Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, thanked the President for his support and called for more support.
Your Excellency, I don't want to talk much, but to thank you for your continued support and continue to solicit for more support.
Godwin Sunday, reporting for Global Television News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has met with resident electoral commissioners from across the country to finalize preparations and ensure a transparent, inclusive and secure electoral process. Kabir Hassan has details.
With key elections drawing near, it was a crucial strategy session at the INEC headquarters in Abuja, as the Commission's chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, met with residents' electoral commissioners to review progress on logistic arrangements, security, and voters' education campaign.
You also need to provide us with information on your plans to enhance voter access to polling units by decongesting some of them, or in other areas such as the cleaning up of the voters' register. You can only effectively discharge your responsibilities when you are knowledgeable and committed. I encourage you to intensify your effort so that we will play our part in what is a multi-stakeholder responsibility more effectively.
The meeting focused on 4 major issues: preparation for the upcoming FCT area council election, pending by-election in 16 constituencies, off-cycle governorship election, and the resumption of nationwide voters registration.
The Commission is holding 5 major elections. These are the by-elections in 12 states of the Federation on 16th of August 2025, the Anambra State Governorship election on 8th November 2025, the area council elections in the Federal Capital Territory on 21st February 2026, the Ekiti State Governorship election on 20th June 2026, and the Osun State Governorship election on the 8th of August 2026.
INEC also stressed the need for enhanced collaboration with security agencies, urging that the citizens, electoral officers, and materials be adequately protected across all election zones. As political activities intensify, the Commission assured Nigerians of its determination to conduct credible elections while reminding political actors to comply with the rules governing campaign activities and voters' engagement. For Nigerians, INEC and its resident electoral commissioners remain the spotlight to deliver on their mandate. Kabir Hassan reporting for Global TV News.
Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia has assured core members of security in the state, saying that the more security operatives have been deployed to the state. Alia warned heads of government ministries, departments, and agencies against the rejection of core members posted to them. He gave the warning during the closing ceremony of the 2025 Batch A Stream 2 orientation course at the National Youth Service Corps camp in Wanune, Tarke local government area of the state. The House of Representatives says it will investigate Nigeria's outstanding debt of 1.2 million euros to Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States. It is reported that Nigeria, like other member states, is expected to contribute financially to the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States budgets and various development programs. However, reports suggest that Nigeria has struggled to meet these financial obligations consistently, potentially hindering the organization's operations and the implementation of projects. The federal government has set August 1st, 2025 as the deadline to begin issuing stiff penalties to foreigners who have overstayed their visas. Minister of Interior Dr. Olubunmi Tunjojo disclosed this at a stakeholder sensitization on major Nigerian immigration service innovations in international passenger travel at the service headquarters in Abuja. However, it opened an online immigration amnesty portal in July to allow affected individuals to regularize their stay before the penalties take effect. The acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party has unanimously endorsed Samuel Ayaun as the national secretary of the party. Speaking at the extended caucus and the PDP's Board of Trustees meeting held at the party's National Secretariat in Abuja, the party's acting national chairman Umar Damagun stated that all members should be good ambassadors of the party. Ramsey Enoch Agbo reports.
The acting national chairman Damagun noted that as party faithfuls, everyone has a responsibility to contribute to rebuilding the party instead of demarketing it. Addressing the press, Damagun said the appointment of Ayaun as the acting national secretary is part of the resolution from the closed-door meeting of the National Executive Council.
We've all combined in one we were all together, and we all agree that Senator Anyau will continue to act as National Secretary, and also to bring the issue of convention to bring it up in the next NEC.
Chairman Board of Trustee of the People's Democratic Party, Senator Adolphus Nwabara, and other stakeholders of the party said the party is active, noting that the agreement reached from the meeting will open a new chapter for the PDP.
This party, I repeat again, will never die. I want to thank the National Working Committee of our party for coming together once again, believing that Nigerians have enormous faith and hope in PDP. The goal of living as people leaving the party are all cosmetic. We are all created to diminish us. But I must thank the leaders and all the organs of the party, especially the BOT, the caucuses of the National Assembly, and most importantly, my colleagues, and the NWC, because everything we are doing for the NWC. It is very, very interesting that the various contending tendencies within the party have found some harmony, and that is the reason why we are all here today.
With the crisis in the People's Democratic Party now resolved, it is hoped that it will go into the 2027 general election as a united political front. Ramsey Enoch Agbo reporting for Global TV News.
The federal government has called for stronger regional collaboration to turn Africa's international borders from flashpoints of conflict into platforms for peace, economic development and integration. The appeal came during the 2025 African Border Day celebration held in Abuja. In a keynote address, the Director General of the National Boundary Commission, Adamu Adaji, emphasized the need for African nations to rethink their approach to borders, saying good fences would make good neighbors. The Speaker of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS Parliament, Hadjia Ibrahima, has called for a strong legal framework for artificial intelligence development across West Africa. She made the call at the delocalized meeting of the Parliament Joint Committee in Dakar, Senegal, focusing on education, science and digital innovation. Represented by Second Deputy Speaker Ajaratu, Ibrahima said the sub-region must adopt new learning models to meet global technological demands. You are watching the live broadcast of AM News. When AM News returns, United Nations says Iran aid budget will need to double following war with Israel. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is AM News on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. On our business decks now, the United States says the 17th U.S.-Africa Business Summit yielded more than $2.5 billion in new deals and commitments between U.S. and African partners. The U.S. Department of State said the summit attracted more than 2,700 U.S. and African public and private sector leaders. The department stated that the summit was hosted by the Corporate Council on Africa and the President of Angola, noting this year's summit marked a record turnout, including 12 African heads of state. The African Continental Free Trade Area has created an opportunity for truckers, airlines, and other players in the logistics and transportation sector. African Export-Import Bank says about 2.2 million trucks valued at $345 billion will be needed for the trade facilitation under the African Continental Free Trade Area, between now and 2045. Similarly, 243 aircrafts valued at $25 billion will be required, with 169,000 rail wagons estimated at $36 billion needed for the continental trade. The United Nations agencies in Nigeria have emphasized the need for greater investment in the development of micro, small and medium-sized enterprises to drive inclusive economic growth in the country. The call was made during the commemoration of the 2025 International Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Day in Abuja. The event was jointly organized by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, International Labour Organization, UN Development Programme, UN Information Center and the World Intellectual Property Organization. The Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development and the Nigerian Air Force have established a committee to finalize arrangements for the inaugural Nigeria International Air Show, slated for December 2025. The ministry stated that it is aimed at bolster national collaboration and develop its aerospace workforce. The ministry's statement says the decision was finalized during a courtesy visit by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Dr. Ibrahim Abubakar Kana, to the Nigerian Air Force headquarters. On the foreign scene now, the most senior United Nations official in Iran, Stéphane Pressner, says the organization's humanitarian and development aid budget will require a doubling following the war with Israel. Over now to Uyi Agbomofuegbe for more reports.
Stéphane Pressner, the United Nations resident coordinator in Iran, said he hoped the international community would step up with more funding. He said this year's UN budget for development and humanitarian affairs in Iran was $75 million, roughly $50 million for refugees and $25 million for the development program.
Our budget last year that we delivered was about 75 million US dollars, 50 million for the refugee crisis, which is, we are always calling for increased burden sharing of the international community to enable us to support, this issue more, and about 25 million development program.
Iran hosts the largest number of refugees in the world, around 3.5 million, most of them from Afghanistan. Speaking from Tehran, Pressner expressed the hope that aid and development would be seen as separate from other issues, and the situation would trigger the international community to increase its support. Uyi Agbomofuegbe reporting for Global TV News.
U.S. senators were in a marathon session of amendment votes as Republicans sought to pass Donald Trump's flagship spending bill, an unpopular package set to splash social welfare programs and add an eye-watering $3 trillion to the national debt. The president wants the bill to extend his expiring first-term tax cut at a cost of $4.5 trillion, boost military spending and fund his plans for unprecedented mass deportation and border security. Thailand's Constitutional Court has suspended Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra, who has come under mounting pressure to resign over her leaked phone conversation with former Cambodian leader Hun Sen. The clip in which Paetongtarn called uncle and criticized a Thai military commander sparked public anger and a competition for her dismissal, which the court is now considering. That could make Paetongtarn the third politician in the powerful Shinawatra clan, which has dominated Thai politics for the past 2 decades, to lose power before completing her term. A heat wave is continuing to grip Europe as rescuers evacuate 50,000 people in western Turkey, where wildfires are raging. In France, a red alert, the highest extreme heat warning, is in place across 16 departments, including Paris, where the top of the Eiffel Tower is closed. 2 people have died in Italy as temperatures soar, and parts of Portugal and Spain recorded their highest ever June temperatures this week as the mercury hit 46 Celsius. And in sports story now, the Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak hosted Kwara United Football Club and the club's under-17 team following their victories in 2025 President Federation Cup and inaugural National Youth League respectively. This was disclosed in a statement by the governor's chief press secretary, Rufai Ajakai. Kwara United emerged as the new champions of the President Federation Cup after beating second-tier side Abakaliki FC 4-3 on penalties. The Aboyne Governor, Francis Owefuru, has rewarded 34 registered players of Abakaliki Football Club with 1 million naira each after emerging the runner-up in the 2025 President Federation Cup on June 28th. The 8-month-old club became the giant killers of the competition after dusting big names such as Eyimba FC of Aba, Nasarawa United of Lafia, among others, en route to the final. Owefuru, while receiving the players in his office in Abakaliki, also announced a reward of 1 million naira for its head coach and ex-international Ifeanyi Oyedike. Now, as Global TV AM News comes to an end, let's take a quick look at our top stories again. Brought to you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been confirmed an honorary knighthood by the government of St. Lucia during his state visits to the country. And in business, the United States says 17th U.S.-African Business Summit yield more than $2.5 billion in new deals and commitments between U.S. and African partners. And our foreign news now, the most senior United Nations official in Iran, Stefan Pesner, says the organization's humanitarian and development aid budgets will require a doubling following the war with Israel. And finally, in sports, the Kwara State Governor Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak hosted Kwara United Football Club and the club's under-19 team following their victories in the 2025 President Federation Cup and the inaugural National Youth League, respectively. Now that's it on Global TV AM News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @GlobalTVNG. You know, you can download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Next is Global Morning. Stay tuned. Good morning. Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start
Download it and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
It's a great, Wednesday morning, midweek as we call it most times. It's a pleasure as always knowing that you're joining us this morning here on the program. This is Global Television and you're on to the live broadcasts of Global Morning. I'm Uyi Agumofwegbe, and the lady who defied the rain like the rest of us to be here this morning is also on the show.
Oh my goodness, always flattery won't get you anywhere.
Well, you knew what you were getting into when you signed up for this job.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's great to be here. It's a beautiful Wednesday, cloudy morning, and I am Jumai Manson, and it is a pleasure to grace your TV set this beautiful day. And I always tell people rain is one of my favorite weathers.
Right.
Like when it's rainy, when it's a bit cold compared to being the heat and all of that. But seriously, I love the rain. I really, really do. It's one of my best weathers. Even when people try as much as possible to make different excuses not to be here or there when it's raining, but it's an amazing weather, please.
Yeah.
Really.
And I'm sure the rains are a test of our commitments to whatever cause we're pursuing.
Oh, yes.
So when people give excuses with the rain, then you begin to second think whether or not they are really committed. And
very
like
true.
That. Of course, we know the rain can also come with a lot of trouble.
Yes, it does.
For example, there are areas where if it rains heavily enough, you're trapped inside.
Oh, yes.
On the other hand, you can't come back home until, the water runs off and all of that. But again, all of those boil down to ecological problems, climate change and what have you. But in all, let's continue to weather the storm as we do. And that's what Nigerians are known for.
Very true. And at the same time, you mentioned climate change. A lot of people do not understand that climate change has come to stay. It's here with us. So we have to try as much as possible to, prepare when it comes to climate change. And very important that we understand that it's something that can help us at the same time, if not well managed, can actually be very disastrous. So we have to try and strike a balance when it comes to climate change and understand that, hey, it has come and it is here to stay with us.
Well, the conversation about climate change has never been bigger, even though that's not our focus. On the program this morning, just to mention that the president, the father of the country, is still away as part of his tour of the Caribbean and the Americas. But quite frankly, back at home, a lot has been happening. In the FCT, for starters, for instance, we see that on a daily basis, practically on a daily basis, projects are being commissioned.
Yes.
Our correspondent, Godwin Sunday, has hardly had a space to breathe because he has to follow the developments.
Yes, he has to.
One project being commissioned after the other. But you made a point here on Monday. You said, is it not possible to replicate this across the country beyond Abuja?
Yes.
And then we also said, while we understand, of course, the minister of the FCT only has a mandate that covers the nation's capital, but is it not possible for state governments to take a cue from this and realize that there's so much we can do better, if we take the time, if we put in the work?
Yes.
Everybody who has followed the development in this city the last 1 year and 10 months, would realize that a lot has happened.
A lot.
So much has changed. And then you're wondering, if that had been done the last 8 years of the previous administration,
would have gone far by now.
exactly, we would have been able to, as they say, jumpstart progress in the area of infrastructure. But there's a whole lot of lesson to be learned.
A whole lot of lesson. And let's never say never, and it's never too late to start something. I know predecessors in the FCT and, of course, across the states, they have done their own bits. Well, some would say it's not good enough, but some have done a lot when it comes to development infrastructure.
Right.
But, you know, like I said, I don't work for the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, but when you see a good thing, you should say it. Even if I might not agree with all your precepts, all your ideology, the way you do your things, I might not agree, but
there are some things that stand out.
There's some things that stand out, like the project, the development in Abuja at the moment, commissioning of the roads and all of that. It says a lot and it speaks a lot that it's never too late to start something. Once you put your heart and soul to it, you can achieve anything. And individuals who are in these various states should take cue from this and do their best. And development is key. It's very important. And like I mentioned, you must create a balance. Like the school children that have been out of school for 2 months now, the public schools, teachers who came out, the protests who are unpaid, I think a little bit of precept should be given to them also to strike that balance so we can have that 100% instead of a big but when it comes to commissioning. But when there's a but, it just spoils the whole broth. Yeah. But I know that a lot can be done, a balance can be made. Maybe, I guess, I'm not taking foot for him or word, but I think we should create that balance. I'm sure with so much going on with commissioning, he hasn't really focused on that, but I think he should do the needful when it comes to that aspect. But kudos anyway. We see you, Mr. Project, amazing. But there are still some areas that need to be worked on.
Covered, right?
Yes.
Well, again, as I say, the biggest room in the world is the one for improvement. So
exactly.
It appears that room just continues to expand, you know, in breadth and length. Because I know growing up, that was one of the first things I heard my mom say. The biggest room in the world is the one for improvements. I mean, nothing's ever perfect. You just continue to bring excellence, all right, into whatever it is that you do. We will get quite political on the program this morning, just to mention real quick. We'll look at issues around conflicts within political parties. So why do political parties always get enmeshed in conflicts, right? Of course, as they say, even biological families do have problems. They do have differences, disagreements, and what have you. But the important thing and the final analysis is the amount of effort they make to resolve those differences, get on the same page again, and get things moving.
Exactly.
But for some political parties in Nigeria, it will appear that this resolution doesn't happen real fast.
No.
And looking at the fact that 2027 is just right in front of us, it becomes more, if you like, timely to have this sort of conversation. Because at some point, you're asking yourself, hold on a second, is it not possible to just forget about politics and live our lives? But the question is it really possible?
No, it's not, of course. You need to be governed by individuals. It's very important. And we need political parties to stand out and tell us, the masses, why we should dance to your particular tune. So it's very important. I thought, funny enough, I thought about this when I took the AM News. I was like, is it possible that all political parties can just come together and be united, let everything just go on smoothly? But how will I be compensated, or how will I stand out when I said this is the right political party to follow, and you've stood by me and you followed through? Of course, I have to show that difference. You know, you have to differentiate. So, well, for as much as it is impossible, we do not know. It might be with all of these defections to the ruling party, APC. So we do not know whether it's going to become a one-party system. So we do not know. But at the same time, I think they should be different. The more the merrier, so we can actually have options to pick who should. Well, for me, I do not care who sits on the seats when it comes to ruling, as long as you do the needful for Nigerians and Nigeria. I don't know religion, where you're from, tribe,
ethnicity.
It has no, I do not really. For me, I care less about that. That's the truth. But at the same time, we are knowing that we are Nigerians. We should be united in peace. In stability, in unity. That for me goes a long way. And the thing that matters most to me is doing the needful when it comes to the people in whom you represent, doing right by them, and of course the country in whom you represent, also Nigeria. That's for me. That's you can go to sleep and you're happy.
Right.
So, well, if political parties emerge, well, the more the merrier. But let the right man win, the right man that God has ordained.
You just sparked a very important angle, the issue of having the right people who understand why they represent and who they represent.
Exactly.
The fact that there is the need to pursue that representation
Very
in the most altruistic way. For example, we've talked about patriotism time and again. Do we still have people who are patriotic, especially in governments, whether the president, governors, or members of the House of Assembly, whether Senate or reps, or even state houses of assembly? Do people put country first? All right. One of the things that most of us admire about Americans is to say, for the love of country.
For the love of country.
All right. So people can let go of their ambition, of their personal interests. When it comes to, I mean, when there's a conflict, established conflict between their interests and the overall interest of the country. And that's why you see that most times President Trump wants to take certain actions, but he's advised and told that this will run contrary to the interest of American people.
Yeah.
All right. So what does he do? He rescinds. All right. He retraces his steps because he must put country first.
For the love of country.
Right. But you see, our leaders have to
Imbibe.
exemplify that, right? You can't tell people what to do without teaching them it can be done. It's called exemplary leadership for a reason, all right? It's not enough to give directives and instructions. The question is, are you doing it already? For example, if the president tells Nigerians on October 1st during his, well, traditional TV broadcasts that, look, we have to be patriotic, amongst other things, to move this country forward, for example, he has to show to us as the father of the nation that patriotism is possible. He has to exemplify it. He has to live it out. The governors have to do that in their respective states as well. You see, to whom much is given, much is expected. There's no state in Nigeria, for example, today that doesn't have at least 3 million citizens, 3 million human beings in that state. So if you have that much number of people, it means so much has been handed over to you. So much of work is right in your hands. So the question is, how are you providing that exemplary leadership for them? For example, there was a time some years ago when a particular state governor was complaining about paucity of funds. There were no funds. IGRO had dropped. Federal allocation had depleted, blah, 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 blah. But this man was busy flying helicopter all over the place. And people were asking him that, say, hold on a second, sir.
Are you
Your
kidding
Excellency,
us?
how do we marry these
Exactly.
two, right? It
Very
doesn't work.
true.
Yeah, I mean, it should be reflected in the way you live, the choices you make.
Exactly.
All right? But if you say the state is broke, I mean, there's nothing you can do about roads, there's nothing you can do about this or that
And you're
project.
having a field day.
Exactly. You're traveling abroad.
Are you kidding
and
me?
even start saying big businesses overseas and things like that. So the people will always have a question mark in their head. So we must realize that patriotism is what drives selfless service. Maybe that's also the reason you have seen people the last, maybe 15 years thereabouts say that, look, can we not have part-time legislature? So Juma Manson doesn't have to be full-time senator. Can she not have a 9 to 5, do a regular job, whatever it is she does, and still be a senator representing a particular senatorial district or a member of House of Reps or even a state House of Assembly? So she doesn't have to take it as a full-time job. It's one of the options that people have, well, tried to fiddle with, if you like, in recent times. But whether that is feasible or not, I'm not so sure. But the important thing is that we must bring a measure, a commendable measure of selflessness into public service.
Very important. I like that. I like the fact that you said selflessness. And I think most of our politicians need to understand selflessness. It's not you all the time. It's not you all the time. It's not about you and how it's going to benefit you and just you. No. There are people in whom you represent and you have that, you are their mouthpiece. So you should understand that you must be selfless in their accord and not just yours. So it's very important that we understand that as a people. I think that's when we can move forward. And then we should we should imbibe, the unity aspect of it. Being united, being together, and peace most especially. It starts with that little circle before it can actually expand. So I think politicians, individuals in that particular light have a lot to play because you have to set an example. It's the pace in which we follow. So it's very important that you understand that you are like a mirror. Everyone is watching. It's how you move and we tilt towards to. It's very important. So Well, at the same time, we hope the needful is done, and the right people who are supposed to be in place should be there, so that for the greater good, for the love of country. Very important.
Well, we can't say that enough, but then the show has to go on, as we say.
Yes, it does.
All right, we're taking a quick break now, everyone. When we return, we'll bring you headlines from across our national dailies. Please don't go away.
All right, you're welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Global Morning on Global Television. And at about this point is a newspaper review segment. And we'll start with the first paper of the day. And it's the Guardian newspaper. Below the nameplate, it says 2027 Northern PDP leaders settle on ADC as preferred coalition platform. And that news you will find on page 6. And below all of that, on page 4, it says, Obi flares St. Lucia's highest honor knight commander title on Tinubu. And like I mentioned, it's on page 4. And on page 4 again, it says, Rep's ticket may cost 500 million naira post-election litigation nib. And that's on page 4. Go out and get yourself a copy. And Ondo government's quest to probe Akeredolu's death sparks controversy. And you can find that on page 7 on The Guardian. And still on The Guardian newspaper, it says, Rivers, Lagos worst hit as cult clashes claim 1,686 lives in 5 years. Unfortunate incident there. And still on page 4, you can get more stories. Omokri places 3 million naira bounty on ex-users threatening Obi's wife and children. And you can find that read on page 29. And of course, those are all the leading headlines on The Guardian. And for as much as a lot has actually caught my eyes, talking about the Omokri places 3 million bounty on ex-users threatening Obi's wife and children. Like, that's where that doesn't really sit well with me. Like, a politician, why would you drag the wife and children? Like, seriously, are you kidding me? Like, leave that out of his political ambition and all of that. Family, please. Let family stay as far away from that. I don't think it's fair. But as much as, well, please, I think individuals should tread softly and be very careful. All right, now the next paper is The Nation, and Uyi will be running us through that.
All right, we have, I guess, just 2 headlines from The Nation this morning, but for whatever it's worth, let's go right through it. Incidentally, we're not going to The Nations, we're going to the Tribune this morning. Let's see those 2 headlines for you. Above the nameplate first, Nigerian Tribune. It says, controversy trails Ondo government's planned inquests into Akeredolu's death. And you're wondering what exactly is sparking this kind of move. Well, you can read up details on page 15 of the Nigerian Tribune. The second and last says, Atiku, David Mark, Tambuwal, Lamido, others, once PDP collapsed into coalition, says party now a shadow of itself. It appears this is going to become quite contentious, because there are those who say that the PDP goes nowhere. The PDP is not going to, go into any form of coalition. But, well, some of the big names in the party think otherwise. All right, we're skipping The Nation now, so we can bring you a different paper, The National Star. real quick. That's where Juma will bring us headlines.
All right, now the National Star, and below the nameplate of the National Star, it says FG cautions NAS over frivolous summons of international COIs. And you can find that on page 2. And next it says we will surpass 600 billion naira IGR target for 2025, says Governor Mba. And that read you will find on page 11 of the National Star. And on page 3 says 1.48 trillion naira budget, revs fume over IBAS, 24 billion naira CCTV, 30 billion naira gun boats proposals. And that you will find on page 3. Now the Star story on the National Star reads, subsidy removal not Buhari's landmine for Tinubu. And that's the voice of Garba Shehu. And the writer says ex-president broke, left office with integrity intact. And the second writer says insists decision not intended to punish Nigerians. And you can find that read and wonder what that is all about on page 2. Still on the National Star, it says AGF tags judicial officers on positive contributions to justice system. And you can find that read on page 10. And it says Edo records 3 deaths, 15 suspected cases of diphtheria. And that's on page 10. Concerns as gunmen murder 13 Ebonyi indigents in Anambra. And that's on page 7. And then below the foot of the National Star, 2027, INEC to amend election result declaration regulations. And that you will find on page 7. 2027, Atiku asks PDP leaders to join coalition against APC, and you will find that read on page 17. And still on the National Star, NEMA receives 104 Nigerians repatriated from Algeria, and that is on page 9. 2027 release Namadi Kalu forget our vote, Southeast youths tell Tinubu. And that you will find on page 9. And go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with some of these current issues making round. Next, we have the Vanguard.
All right, so let's turn there real quick. Well, not quite loaded for obvious reasons. Here it says oil production, that's a kicker. Federal government to withdraw license of firms with dormant oil fields. Those details are on page 19 of the Vanguard. Worsening abductions, killings, Boko Haram's renewed attacks, others alarming. Sultan's JNI. Well, we can't say that enough. Just yesterday, we got a piece of news, a very sad one, that the brother of the governor of the state had been kidnapped. Yeah. Was the crux of the conversation on the talk as well. But we hope in no distant time we are able to run circles around this monster. But then that's what we leave it on the Vanguard. Next port of call is Daily Independent.
And the Daily Independent, below the nameplate, the Star story reads, Atiku Mark, Secondus PDP bigwigs ask members, Nigerians, to join coalition. And the writer reads, says, APC government is now a disaster, must be voted out. And it says here, indices of departments have collapsed, life now hell in Nigeria. And the third writer reads, coalition not threat to APC, says Dalori, ruling party's AG chair. And that you will find on page 29. Infrastructure is most persuasive advertisement of leadership. And that's Tinubu, and that you will find on page 29. AKK gas pipeline NNPC announces successful crossing of River Niger, and that you will find on page 7. French governor doles out 38 million euros for ICT infrastructure in 10 Nigerian universities, and that you will find on page 7 also. And then page 7 of the Daily Independent is loaded because on page 27 again, Tinubu names former Nasarawa Governor Alama Kura board chairman of BEC. Still on page 7 again, Dangote's initiative will stimulate economic growth. On page 7 says energy experts. And I'm still on the Daily Independent. INEC set to release new guidelines on reviewing declared results. And below the foot of the Daily Independent, it says subsidy cut. Buhari did not undermine Tinubu's government. And that's the voice of Garba Shehu. And you can find that read on page 6. Go out to get yourself a copy and be well abreast with issues making round. And we will run us through first news.
All right. Well, ironically, first news is not coming first. Okay, so we begin with the headline.
You're so cheeky, Uyi. What's going on?
It's an irony.
You've been doing this since last week.
Well, incidentally, we had seen a few other papers, and now we want to look at the first news. All right.
I get it.
Right. So let's look at the one that I just sent the nameplate of the first news for you. Has a picture of the immediate past chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Abdul Rashid Bawa here. It says fuel subsidy scam benefited everyone, including law enforcement. Well, that's quite revealing, but you want to look at those details, we pick up a copy of the first news this morning. It appears this will be the first time he's speaking up publicly since his interface, so to speak, with the DSS. Peter Obi's one-term promise hard to believe. Ex-IPAC chair Yalbaji signing. Reps demand breakdown of Rivers' 1.48 trillion naira budget. Questions 24 billion naira CCTV allocation. Court clashes claim 1,686 lives in 5 years. That's according to reports. That's quite a number of lives to lose through something as deadly as cultism. Trump hints at deporting Elon Musk. Just when you thought we had seen the worst of it, it just gets a bit messier by the day.
Yes, it does.
I mean, these two gentlemen were quote-unquote in love.
Besties.
Just a while ago, but today,
but now,
they can't even look themselves in the eye.
Unfortunately so.
Yes, it's quite disturbing, but what can we say? All right, the Star headline has a clicker that says, bloodbath in Anambra, gunmen killed 19 at community gathering. Sad one there. The security forces dismantle key ESN camps in Imo, kill commanders. Dantata buried in Medina as federal government, Dangote, others attend Janeza. Finally, one of Nigeria's greatest, in fact, indeed, we should say one of Africa's greatest, has been laid to rest. And then on the foot of the front page of the first newspaper, Dangote refinery slashes petrol price to 840 naira per litre. This is about the third slash we're seeing the last few months. Let's hope it continues to get better so that Nigerians, whether those who do business or who simply need fuel for domestic uses, can find a place to breathe. All right, but let's turn to the Daily Times newspaper for you now.
All right, the Daily Times newspaper, and above the nameplate it says, Atiku Mark, Secondus, others urge PDP members to join coalition, and that you will find on page 10. Child labor falls by 22 million, 54 million still at risk, and that's from ILO, and that you will find on page 4. Now, the Star story on page 10 reads, Federal government threatens to withdraw abandoned oil licenses. And still on the Daily Times, no land allocated to Wike's children in FCT or Layinka, and you can find that on page 4. Dreaded terror kingpin Yellow Danbakolo dies from gunshot wounds, and that's from DHQ Defense Headquarters, and you will find that on page 6. INEC ready to release supplementary election regulations guidelines, and that is on page 7. Rare Partners FCMB to launch 100 billion naira financing facility, and that you will find on page 9. And at the foot of the Daily Times, it reads, NSTTF pays 23 million naira compensation to both mishap victims' family, injured workers, and that you will find on page 15. And of course, that's the boat mishap that happened, unfortunate incident, but the families have been, though it won't bring them back, but
right,
at least for whatever it's worth, that's something,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a step in the right direction.
Right.
And then next we have the Daily Trust, giving us some very trusty news.
Right.
Did I get that? Trusty.
You came really close.
Yeah, I did.
All right, let's see the Daily Trust newspaper for you. We'll begin with the star headline. It says, ahead ADC's meeting today, Atiku woos PDP leaders to coalition. Hopefully they follow. All right, so we'll move it up a notch higher. How we can transform livestock sector into modern business. Minister. Military kills 10 terrorists at Nigeria-Cameroon border. All right, then what more do we have? We'll bring it down a little now. INEC proposes fresh guidelines for review of election results. Dantata buried in Saudi Arabia. Dam Bakodo, the rise and fall of bandits warlord. Lagos traditional ruler dethrones 6 chiefs for impersonating him at LP campaign. You know, our colleague saw this story yesterday, and we just laughed about it, basically, how that monarch in Lagos had to dethrone 6 chiefs for attending Labour Party rally. But I think it's getting clearer now with some context here, saying that they actually had gone there to impersonate him.
Yeah.
So he had to dethrone them. But hopefully they'll find a way to resolve these at the traditional level. All right. Well, there is this day newspaper as well for you this morning, and Juma has those headlines.
All right. Now, this day newspaper, above the nameplate, it reads, Opposition coalition formally adopts ADC, unveils party interim ESCO today. And we have about 3 riders here, and it says, Mark is pro-term national chair, Aregbesola secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi spokesperson. And next says, permanent PDP leader urged members to join movement, says, party, APC have failed Nigeria. And the last rider reads, declare nation a diminished country, embarrassment on world stage. And below the nameplate, it says, 2 Kano emirs join Tajuddin Dangote Seyu FG team in Medina to bury Aminu Dantata. And you can find that read on page 10. And next is the Daily Monitor. Over to you.
Let's see what we have here. I'm just going to talk about the PDP leaders now. I mean, those in the coalition, saying that both the PDP and APC have failed Nigerians. I hope they don't turn around again after the 2027 election.
Exactly.
To say something otherwise. But you can never predict politicians, right? A scholarship for Caribbean students to study in Nigeria begins next academic year. That's according to Tinubu, of course. That was a country, one of the countries where he has spent the bulk of the last few days, beginning from St. Lucia. All right. So a scholarship for Caribbean students to study in Nigeria begins next academic year. And then we have more for you. Top left corner, INEC to provide supplementary regulations for election declaration review. That's according to the chairman of the commission. We're looking at all of this from the Daily Monitor newspaper. What's more, a picture of the group chief executive officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company here says NNPCL records 100% availability on major crude oil pipelines. Bribes to investigate Nigeria's 1.2 euro debts to OACPS. That's the Organization of Caribbean and others. But that again is going to take a while to come through. But we'll move on, looking at the headlines for you. DHQ confirms killing of terrorist kingpin Yellow Dam Bokolo. This story is replicated across major newspapers today. And then the Star headline tells us APC-led federal government undermining democracy in Nigeria. That's credited to PDP leaders. One rider accompanies that headline. Describe ruling party government's performance as a failure. Urge Nigerians to help unseat APC. Nigeria's oil production stands at 1.745 million barrels per day to hit 2 million in 2025 ending. That's credited to Minister of Petroleum Oil, talking about Heineken Mobiri. All right, those are the headlines from the Daily Monitor today. Turns out this is our last paper on the program.
Yes, it is. And just go out and get yourself a copy of the newspapers so you can be abreast with all the issues making rounds and, of course, with the latest news in current affairs. And, of course, for all of these papers, Global Television did not add or subtract from all of these newspaper reviews, what we just read out and what is ongoing at the moment. Stay tuned. It's Global Morning. Do not go anywhere. The program continues shortly. All right, you're welcome back from that very short break, and that was the end of the newspaper review segment. A lot is going on, a lot is making rounds, you know. But at the same time, let's see what the social media has in stock for us today. Over to Ogochukwu Mobono. Let's hear what she has for us on Social Buzz. Stay tuned.
Good morning and welcome to Social Buzz on Global Morning. I am Ogochukwu Mobono. It's a good day to look at what's buzzing on the internet. A farmer named Kabiru Kamba has recounted how he exhumed and rescued a newborn baby girl buried alive in his farmland in Kamba, Dandi local government area of Kebbi State. Kamba narrated the incident when he received a team of State Technical Working Group of the Gender-Based Violence in his residence in Kamba Town, Dandi local government area on Monday, June 30th, 2025. Kamba said that he arrived at his farm on Friday, June 27, and noticed an unusual ridge among regular ones in his farm. Out of curiosity, he said, I flagged down some motorcyclists to help dig. While digging the ridge, we found a wrapper buried in the soil, which raised my suspicion, he narrated. He said, I immediately informed the police at a nearby checkpoint, who came and dug further, only to discover a baby girl miraculously alive and crying, shrouded in a piece of textile. And on custody of the child, Kamba said that he had taken the custody of the child out of compassion. In such situations, it is only normal to help. I was moved to care for her and requested her custody, he said. The baby was handed over to me by the Dandi Local Government Area Council pending conclusion of police investigation. I didn't expect anything in return. It's simply a humanitarian act, and coincidentally, my wife had just given birth. So breastfeeding the baby has not been a challenge. Well, that's Mr. Kamba Kabiru talking. And he said, in fact, we have planned her naming ceremony for Wednesday and have already bought a ram and other essential recipes for this event. Wow, this is really huge. Well, I'll be showing us a video of Mr. Kabiru while he was trying to rescue this baby. So let's take a look at this video.
Allah Isa. Allah Isa. Allah Isa. Allah Isa. Jumai wanga sani an santa kowace ta. Ka gani?
La ilaha illallah Muhammadu Rasulullahi sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.
Allah ya isa. Allah ya isa.
Ba wai ki bai wa kai fishi wannan. Kuma ki mai wa kai fishi wannan.
Yau aka aihe shi ma da aihuwa da ce na an kai nan da shi.
Kumi ba dibi mu. Din an ka shaki mu dar me an kan nan. Sun dauka ya mutu.
Sun dauka ya mutu banye kawai. Ai Allah babu yadda bai iya ba. To bai mutum ba. Ba komi. ya za a yi kan ba a samu ruwa wallahi sai dai ai ta wahal da rayuwa.
Allahu akbar. Why?
So you can call a crime. Because I don't have this number. Let me call Shaman. Okay.
Why?
Na gani bai mutu ba. Sabuwa haihuwa ne za ka haife shi.
A buɗe shi
kawai. A can dama bai kamata ya sha iska ba.
Nan da
yawa iya nan hanci. Yawa shi a ƙarar jariri bai kamata dama ya sha iska.
Wow, this can only be a miracle at this point, because how can we even start explaining this whole ordeal? Being buried alive. We've heard of so many cases of being buried alive, but a baby being buried alive, this is really inhuman, because I really cannot start thinking about it. The video is just an eyesore for me. Well, we'll be taking some comments from social media to hear what people have to say about this. So the first comment is coming from Ife's Kitchen, and Ife says, OMG, I am in so much pain from what I just saw. OMG, this is too much. Couldn't you just abandon the child where someone would pick the child up and care for her? This is too much, too much. May God keep and bless this child, and may this child fulfill her purpose here on earth in Jesus' name. Wow, in Jesus' name to all of that prayer. Yes, we pray that the child actually, fulfill all of this purposes, on earth, because if that child should stay alive till now, that means God really has a purpose for that child. Well, the second comment is coming from Online Best Girl. An Online Best Girl says that baby will definitely grow up to be a great child. She has come to fulfill her destiny. We pray that she actually do fulfill the destiny, her own destiny. And I'm sure the doctors must have checked on this child, and I'm hoping that there are no other incident, no kind of complications in her health, that she's very, very fine. And the last but not the least comment is coming from Mosquito Net NG. And Mosquito Net said, Mr. Kabiru Kamba, may God bless and multiply the works of your hands. May He bless your family and generations unborn. This is a big, great prayer. We all heard Mr. Kabiru saying he just had a baby. His wife just had a baby, so it was not going to be a problem for the wife to breastfeed that child. What a generous man he is. Only few people will do this. Some people will just decide to take that child to an orphanage home or any care home that they can take care of this child. But Mr. Kabiru wants to ensure that the safety and the health and the growth of that child is in his hands. And it's only good for us to give him this kind of prayer, blessings and multiplications. Only few people can do this. Well, I know you are itching to drop your comment. I would like you to join this conversation using the social media handles as Global TV NG, and be part of this conversation, as I'm going to be leaving you in the hands of the Global Morning crew as Global Morning continues. Do stay with us.
Very emotional episode there on Social Buzz. Like, I got so emotional, and I said to myself, are you kidding me? This is very sad to watch, and you wonder why individuals go out. Why if you know that you cannot care for a child, why get pregnant? And why would you bury that child alive, wrapped in so much clothing? Not one, not two, like 3 layers of clothing. Right. You wanted the child to die immediately, but thank God for that family, the family of Malam Kabiru. God bless his family. And coincidentally, his wife just gave birth, so it's very healthy for a woman who is healthy enough. She can actually breastfeed another child, even if it's not her biological child.
Quite touching.
Very, very touching. It's very, very sad. And we pray that that beautiful baby girl will fulfill destiny. And God bless the family that took her in. God bless them. And, well, at the same time, as sad as this may sound, let's go on a very quick break to understand and observe all of this. Stay tuned. Global Morning continues shortly. Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global.
All right, we're going to get into our first discussion shortly, but Juma and I are just going to take the next few minutes to discuss something that we seem to either overlook altogether or underestimate. All right, it has to do with human connection, or what the World Health Organization now categorically refers to as social connection. Just read off something for you, very brief, to establish some perspective. It says the World Health Organization Commission on Social Connection has released its global report revealing that one in six people worldwide is affected by loneliness, with significant impacts on health and well-being. Loneliness is linked to an estimated 100 deaths every hour, more than 871,000 deaths annually. Finally, strong social connections can lead to better health and longer life, the report says. Juma, are you concerned?
Of course, it's a sign of it. It should be. One should be concerned about this particular issue, loneliness, because a lot of people are lonely, whether directly or indirectly. Some think it's a way of life, just being in that isolation all by yourself, just staying there and finding it amazing, enjoying your own space by yourself. It's a sign. It's a sure sign of concern. And then a lot of people, this is the chance where a lot of people need to be aware that loneliness is practically dangerous and detrimental to health. You must find that company to be with. Individuals must check on individuals not to be lonely. And it shows that we shouldn't take such things for granted. Things that people actually take for granted. When you are in a company of individuals that love you and care for you, don't take it for granted, because a lot of people out there are lonely, and it could be very suicidal, because once you're alone, you don't have anyone to talk to. And it's very sad for individuals who have lost their spouse, that it could be very, very lonely. Believe me, it's a very, very lonely experience. But at the same time, you should try as much as possible to come out, go out more, it's very important. But people that find it hard to go out, I can actually relate to that, but you should. Individuals should go out, loved ones, check on this individual or individuals to move forward, because it's really detrimental to health, as we see, health-wise, and of course for general well-being.
Incidentally, somebody sang a song, Ashaka it is, saying lonely at the top. But it's not only at the top, it's lonely everywhere for most people. Come to think of it, Africa is very communal. Nigeria in particular is arguably the most communal society you can find in the world. Well, we can subject that to a debate someday, but for today, we know, the facts are there, right? We all grew up in this system. We are very communal. So it becomes an error, maybe almost an aberration, all right, for people to stay on their own and say, I want to be in seclusion of some kind, all right? But then again, you need to ask yourself, what are the factors driving this kind of lonely choice that people make? I mean, the decision to want to stay lonely, be all by yourself, and things like that. We know, yes, in the western part of the world, it's not a big deal for a lady in her 40s to say, look, I'm not married, never been married, don't have a boyfriend, I don't have children, I don't have any close or blood relative around me, and they just face their careers head on. It's almost normal. It's almost a culture, right? But over here, I mean, it's the reverse, all right? Which means that if you find somebody in this part of the world, I mean, on our soil, for example, who decides to live in isolation, then means something is fundamentally wrong.
Of course.
Whatever it is.
Of course.
You can maybe suspect, yes, I said suspect, depression. You can suspect some mental health issues that the person may be dealing with. And that's why we keep saying, we need to reach out to ourselves, check on ourselves. We don't have to be friends, we don't have to be cool, but we also want to make those moves to ensure that the worst doesn't happen before we start seeing how we can manage a bad situation.
And you know what, Mr. Uyi, sometimes a single "how are you today" goes a long way for some individuals. You know, has this ever happened to you when you're celebrating your birthday and this random text message comes in from maybe your bank wishing you a happy birthday? That thought of, oh my God,
so they will have thought of me.
They remembered. It goes a long way. So that is why it is important that one should not be isolated, and individuals around should show that care and support. It doesn't mean that, oh, when I show care and support, I need to accompany it with money. No. Money, for me, I always say money is not everything. That little gesture goes a long way. Just being there for someone who is going through that. And like you mentioned, on this soil, if you're isolating yourself, they feel either the person has a contagious disease or the person is psychologically not okay up there. But the thing is, some people find it as a way of life. Some people feel that that's the right way to go about it. But really, it is not.
I don't want to be disturbed. I also don't want to bother anyone else.
I don't want to bother anyone else. But really, you're not bothering someone. It's just your emotional and physical well-being that is being depreciated at that point. So you need to come out more. And you can just come out random. It doesn't have, you don't have to be in anyone's circle. Just come out and say hi. How are you doing today? Read a book. Go to the garden or something. But staying indoors, being lonely, and of course, a lot of things creeps in: self-pity, depression, having suicidal thoughts. You know, all of these negativity, and really the economy of Nigeria is not, you know, so we don't need all of these things encompassed. You know, so please, loneliness is very deadly, and it should be avoided at all costs.
You know, Joe, I mean, you're talking now, something is popping up in my head. So,
really,
as a younger boy that I was, right? So, this was before university time. I worked in the Cyber Cafe, and the Cyber Cafe had a training session, computer training, right? So we had students in categories. So we could have Juma Manson, for example, who is a professional, but she wants to have her hands on the computer. So she has her own class, people in her own class, all right? So we had it like that. So this other lady was actually doing a master's program away from the city. So she would come in every Monday, just only Monday for her class. It was a bit exclusive. So it turned out, naturally, every other Monday I saw her, I would say, how was your weekend? It was sporadic, it was spontaneous, so it was not something that was, I mean, I had to think of. It was just natural, right? So one day she comes to me and says she'd like to have a word with me outside. I mean, she was a married woman. In fact, her husband used to be a customer coming to the Cyber Cafe to use the internet and all of that.
Okay.
You know. So I go out with her and she says, I'm sorry, I just noticed that today you didn't ask me how was my weekend.
Really?
So it didn't really mean anything to me. I didn't see it as something of significance. But I look back today and I'm asking myself, hold on a second. Nobody could have understood what that lady was going through, how much that meant to her. But this was something I would just say and walk away without even giving it any special thought.
Exactly.
So social connection is something we have to rethink and understand how we interconnect with ourselves.
And I want to add to what you say. You know, when I read this article, it says children also get lonely.
Right.
Even individuals who are married get lonely.
Within marriage.
Within marriage.
Right.
So it's very important that we understand that communication is key. For as much as you want to socialize, there's some married individuals who will not want their wives. I completely understand the husbands to start socializing, and then, you know, the next day, a third party comes in, you know, destabilizes the whole marriage thing. But the thing is, communication is important. When you see a child, I always reflect to the home front because, you know, children are very important. We should understand that. I know someone who actually committed suicide because no one noticed that she was lonely and going into a corner all by herself. So at the same time, we should understand that kids have this phase in their life, and you owe it to them as guardians, as parents, to actually bring them out of this shell and teach them why it's important to be friends with others and socialize. One. And in marriage, communication is very important. Sometimes spouses, they forget because they're too busy with work, business, trying to make ends meet. But you must communicate because loneliness can lead to divorce, separation, and all of that. So please, it's very important in all affairs, wherever you find yourself, whether you are single, whether you're married, whether you're in a relationship, wherever you are, whether big, small, old, young, try as much as possible to communicate, show that care, be around individuals. You know, it's very important. That's why I love family reunions. Please do not take it for granted when families all come together and all of that. It's very important. So we don't fall into that, we don't dwindle into depression mode and all of those things that are not, like I said, when you hear depression and stuff, you say it's let me go to the Pigeon Palace now, it's Oyibo man's problem. But really, look at it now.
It's a human problem.
It's a human problem. It's here with us in Nigeria, all over the world. So let's try as much as possible to avoid all of that and stay connected, still communicate, and by the grace of God, everyone will be fine. Last, everyone will be fine.
That's right. All right, so Juma has said it all. This is where we're taking another break. When we return, we talk about coalition. Political parties, some of them, now said that they want to come together and form, well, let's say forge a common front against the APC-led federal governments in the 2027 general election. How much of progress have they made so far? Yesterday, for example, they had some sort of closed-door meeting here in Abuja. We understand the likes of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Senate President David Mark, and immediate past governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, and of course former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, were all some of the big wigs in that meeting. Is this going to see the light of day, or is it just going to be boxing the air? We'll talk about that after this break. Stay with us.
know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
We're joined via Zoom now by Toba Awojaye, a political analyst. He's joining us via Zoom from Abuja to help us find some context and perspective in terms of this coalition that is being driven by, well, for the most part, people who may not be referred to as inactive members of the PDP, because some of them have said that the PDP is dead and gone. Others say, well, the PDP has failed Nigerians. Therefore, there's no need to continue to flog a dead horse in a manner of speaking. First of all, Toba, thank you for joining us at very short notice this morning on the program. Juma and I would be talking with you over the next couple of minutes. Let's get right to it. So, coalition talks have been here for a while now. Before now, there was not much of clarity, but today, we are now hearing specific names. The development continues to unfold. Talk to us about what this means in light of the 2027 general election.
Good morning. Can you hear me clearly? Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, well, go ahead, please, Mr. Toba.
Oh, yeah, good. So, it's a good thing for democracy. It's a good thing for Nigerians. We need to have viable opposition. Though there are arguments to the benefits of a one-party state for the speed of growth of developing countries. Rwanda is an argument for that. China is an argument for that. But generally speaking, a viable opposition puts the ruling party on its toes and tries to make it work in the interest of the people. But one of the snags to that is the fact that we spend over 60% of our time, resources, and strategy politicking from day one, and 2 years to the end of the tenure, we are seeing politics at a high. So what time is there for governance? So these are the drawbacks to what we are seeing. But we are glad that some big names have come out. For the first time, we are seeing David Mark involved in anything. He was at the closed-door meeting. We've seen Aregbe Shola come out of the closet. He's now the national secretary to ADC. We are seeing them still holding on to ADA, seeing if the registration pans out. But getting a grip of a smaller party, which is good. We're surprised that it took them this long to get a small party. They started from SDP and went to ADC and left ADC and went to ADA and are now back to ADC. I would have been really worried if they were not able to take over the structure of ADC, because if you can't take over the structure of ADC, which is a party I don't believe has three members anywhere, then how can you take over power from the ruling party? So it's a good step. It's a step in the right direction, and we pray they get it right. We pray they listen to the people, and we pray that they are not just here for their own share of power. Because if that's what they want, then they would have to offer us something far better than what Tinubu is doing right now.
All right, Mr. Toba, how do you think the formation or failure of the pre-election coalition impact voters' turnout and the overall political participation in 2027 election?
Yeah, you see, we were worried that they didn't see this coming in 2023. We shouted, we went to media houses. The best time to have taken over power was 2023, when there was an outgoing president. And the same coalition was all in one party. They were all in PDP. Atiku, Kwankwaso, Obi, Wike, and David Mark. They were all in one party then. And because of ambitions that they could not reconcile, they all broke out into 4 different parties. And we saw a Tinubu that was declared to have 36.6% of votes become president, meaning that he didn't have 65.4% of the votes, even by what is being announced, which we even believe is far worse. So it was not so much that Tinubu won, it was so much that the opposition lost. So we are hoping that they've learned their lessons. We are still hearing all of them coming to tell us that they are all planning to do 1 term. And these are not new stories we've had in politics. It's just that it has not been used in a long time. So who is going to step down for who? Mm-hmm. Whoever wins their primaries, will they remain with that decision of whoever wins the primaries? Will it be free and fair? These are the questions that come to mind when we talk about this coalition.
It's interesting. You mentioned Obi already in passing out, Toba. Let's look at the fact that Obi has said he doesn't mind 1 term, because that question was asked and he had to specifically respond to it. Maybe that's on the basis of the fact that the current president, Bola Tinubu, is from the south. So if it's not like Obi, for the purpose of this conversation, were to become president in 2027, it's only common sense, given the tradition we've established since 1999, that he should only do 1 term. But Obi has made very clear that he's not joining the coalition, that he wants to run on his own. Talk to us about the ramifications of that decision for this coalition be driven mainly by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Senate President David Mark.
It's going to be tough, right? Because the choices for Atiku is very slim at the moment. Obi is about the best candidate, in my opinion. I didn't vote him last election, but we know that as political narration goes now, power should still remain in the South for another 4 years, which is why Obi is capitalizing on that to say he wants to do only 4 years. So that narrative can pull off. If Obi doesn't become president in the next 4 years, he can never be president of Nigeria again. Because in 2031, power is going to go to the North for 8 years. So will he come in 14 years' time to, he's already 64, I believe, to come for power. So he knows it's either now or never. So these are the things we have said that pulls. And then Atiku has missed out a lot in politics because he doesn't understand timing and he doesn't respect political swings. He became vice president because he contested for governor of Adamawa, and without any work of his own, he was brought in to become vice president. And in 6 months of being vice president, he was already making moves to remove the Senate president and getting ready to take over. So that ability to understand politics, be loyal, and wait for his turn is the reason why he is not getting the traction. If not, he's the biggest political name. He's the most widely accepted political candidate in Nigeria, but his perennial contesting is bringing a diminishing returns. And it's sad to see that such a great man who's well-spoken, well-read, and accepted doesn't just know when to contest and not to contest. This is where Tinubu beats him. Tinubu went for senator once and got it in 1992. He went for governor 1999 once and got it, got 8 years, and waited again from 2007 till 2023, when the swing of politics would favor him. And then he now went for presidency once and he got it. So the ability to know when this favors you or not is very key. Because if it is not your opportunity and it's somebody's own, and you go to mess it up for him, what is your impetus to call him now to support you when it's your turn? If I was Atiku, I would just patiently wait for 2031 and pray I'm in good health. But for Obi, this is his chance. He has to try, in my opinion. In my opinion, he has to try to convince the coalition that he is the candidate they need. I think that is what he's doing, to show them that he still has the support of the youth without the coalition. And then he will later come to the coalition and see what they can negotiate. But he wants to run, surely.
All right, Mr. Toba, let us look at factors such as ethnicity, religion, and economic policies. How do they influence the formation and success of political coalition in Nigeria? And also, what are the potential implications for governments?
Yeah, there's an appeal to, you see, Tinubu has not done well by majority of Nigerians, by the opinion of majority of Nigerians as it stands today. It may change in the next 1 year, but as it stands today, Tinubu has not done well in the eye of many Nigerians. So the opposition see that as blood in the water. They are doing their best to capitalize on it. Obi has been able to put forth good economic policies. Atiku, during his time as VP, was somehow running the economy because the president then gave him a free hand, and he did quite a good job. So these are the matrices upon which these two candidates have the hope and continue to try out their chances, because Obi has a more frugal attempt by his nature. He's not a spender by nature, and Nigeria is debt-laden. So somebody like him can be a good appeal for the office in terms of economy. And Atiku also has hands-on experience as a vice president. So coming into office, he wouldn't have that drag back that happens to a first timer. So these are the opportunities they have. But of course, as we have said that, they will be up against a sitting president who already has that experience also, and who has also run Lagos, and is also not doing horribly bad, in my opinion, as a political analyst, though the masses may see it differently from their point of view. So it's going to be very tough to unseat Tinubu. I will surely have to accept that. But it depends on what he and the opposition does in the next 18 months.
All right, let's wrap it up now on the final notes, Toby. Quite frankly, there are people who would argue and say that one of the drawbacks, potentially speaking at least, that these coalition, personalities may have, is that they are not motivated by service to the country, love of country, or some sort of patriotism. Instead, it's just the desperation to want to see President Tinubu unseated and APC removed from the center. Talk to us about how motive affects a cause such as this one.
My newest mentor is Elon Musk, and he said to bring a disruption, you don't just need a new product. You need a new product that beats the old product in its features by a large margin. That people will not move to a new product if the difference is just minimal. So, in my opinion, if not that these old goons don't want to rest, I think they should be talking, this is just me speaking, I think they should be talking of a VDM as a presidential candidate. And they back him up with their experience and what they have and give him a VP that is very experienced from the north. This is the kind of way to unseat a president. Bringing something new, bringing something the masses believe in, bringing something the youth believe in, give the person a structure and a backing that can, but this, for me, this is just the same old people looking for their own turn at power. Since 1999, we have not had a new crop of people. It's the same old people telling us new stories and looking for the same thing that they have always looked for. They change party every day at will. Some of them swore that they will never change party. Even Angel Obi did that. I will never leave ABGA, but he has left ABGA, left PDP, and may soon leave Labour Party. These are just politicians saying what the people want to hear, and of course the people are drinking it up. We pray that one day we'll all sit down and get a viable opposition that is new, like what was done in Senegal. Senegal brought up something new, and they have a 44-year-old as a president, and he's doing well. These are the things we should look at as a country.
All right. We'd like to say a big thank you to you at this point, Toba Owojaye, political analyst, for jumping on the conversation with us this morning. We do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's what we'll leave it with this first conversation. It is quite extensive. Time for us to look at it inside and out. But we'll move on now to look at a different conversation this morning. This time, our focus returns to internal conflicts within political parties. What does it all mean for democracy and good governance in Nigeria? Stay tuned.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, so let's get it on the road for the second conversation. I mean, if you take a very good look at political parties in this country today, it is virtually impossible to not see that every one of them is literally grappling with one form of conflict or another. We've seen these conflicts shape them over time. The APC is the ruling party today, as it's called, yet it is also troubled from within. We've seen those who some APC members have referred to as traitors, others they say are treacherous. We've seen category of APC members who have resigned their membership of the party. We've seen those who, well, may not have resigned, but members of the party say they are working against the overall interests of the president from within. They are working contrary to the, well, elements of the Renewed Hope agenda. Interestingly, there have been people who resigned from the APC and came out to the public, sometimes on live television, to say they would work against President Bola Tinubu going into 2027. What implications does it all hold for the everyday Nigerian whose only expectation is good governance and, of course, entrenchment of the rule of law? I'm joined by an international human rights lawyer this morning, Barrister Kola Alakwini. I'm trying not to call him Barrister K, but it's all good. Good to see you on the program this morning.
Mr. is fine. Thank you.
Great. Of course, you follow politics in this country a lot, right? When you look at the way political parties are being run, Nigerians overall get bothered that these parties are not properly aligned in terms of their leadership structure from within. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, there are no differences, major differences between any of the political parties. There are no ideological differences. Otherwise, it would be almost a political anathema for someone who was in PDP to be able to just cross carpet into the APC and vice versa. And I liken it to parties abroad, like the Republican Party and the Democrats, or say Labour and the Conservatives in the United Kingdom.
Right.
It's almost, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's almost unheard of. It comes once in a very blue moon. It must mean that there's a radical ideological change for a member of parliament to leave one party to a party that is diametrically opposed to his views. So when you have all these parties which are like clones of each other, they become just special purpose vehicles for the politicians. And you can trace this in recent times in modern political history in Nigeria to the Babangida era, where the military did a very strange thing by setting up two political parties, National Republican Convention and the Social Democratic Party, and set a little to the right and a little to the left, which means there's basically not much of a difference. So it makes cross-carpeting easy, it waters down ideology, and if I don't get what I want here, I'm going to get in the other party. And you've seen it with all the major flag bearers or political flag bearers. Let's start with the president himself, from Alliance for Democracy to ACN to where we are now, with Peter Obi himself, who was an APGA and then went to PDP. Right. He even became presidential flag bearer, the
vice president.
Vice president. And then when he couldn't realize his ambition, he went to Labour.
Right.
If you look at the ideological difference or supposed ideological difference between a Republican Party and Labour Party, it should be as wide as the North and the South Pole. So what would make someone who is a Republican or who had joined the party started by the former warlord, Chief Odubegu Ojukwu, and now say, I'm going to Labour? They should be strange bedfellows. And you can say the same thing with the former Vice President, Atiku himself. He's kind of globe-trotted around the various political parties. So it should be like bile, like tasting bile, if you move from one political party to the other if there are sound ideological differences. So they're just special purpose vehicles to the politicians to realize their ambition.
There are people who say that Nigeria is a peculiar case, and as such, it's almost baseless and unrealistic to compare Nigeria with, for example, the USA and the United Kingdom that you mentioned a while ago. What are the peculiarities you see that have informed these realities we're dealing with?
Well, yes and no. We are copying their style of democracy, isn't it? Especially the US version.
Right.
So we should play according to those rules. And that's why I said yes and no. Because if we're playing by those rules, then we shouldn't have this kind of major crisis, which we're having. People just crossing carpets. But as far as peculiarity is concerned, yes, because we're an abnormal nation. We just do things differently. We're very lawless. We don't like to follow the rule of law. We don't like to follow due process. We circumvent everything. Otherwise, someone in the mode of the minister of the FCT would not be within a party and be telling them, there's nothing you can do to me. I'm going to work against your interests. I'm going to undermine you. Nobody has been able to do anything. He's got some balls, excuse my French, and they can't do anything to him. So that shows you that, yes, we are an abnormal nation. And it told them, I'm going to help you lose this presidency. And it did. He undermined them from within. And nobody has been able to say, we're suspending him. They can't.
Well, why is that?
He's grown too powerful than the party. And he's got a lot of people who are in his pockets. So even if you try to do anything, those people will undermine the party as well.
Interesting. Again, that's a concern. People say political parties are more in the pockets of people. People they call, big bags or deep pockets or whatever.
Godfathers.
Yes. So when you talk about political parties, it will appear they are individual ownership. So you think of political parties in Nigeria in terms of who owns the political party. Do you see us being able to do some, let's just call it a re-engineering in this direction?
It's impossible because people are hungry. And our politics is politics of money. So every cycle, every 4 years, these people come, present themselves, fill the space with Ghana Must Goes and inducements to the electorate, and they have to grab it. There's a reason why the electorate has been subdued to that level of poverty, so that they're always tied to the apron strings of the politicians. Immediately, people are able to express financial freedom, and they're free. Then you don't have to dance to the tune of the political godfathers. So there's no election you want to run in Nigeria today. Say at federal level, for instance, you need presence in 774 local governments. So you'll find that even some of those smaller parties that emerge, they're not actually emerging so that they can win on a general scale. They're emerging so that they can negotiate. And then you see a lot of them on the eve of the elections.
Collapsing their structures.
And say, we're going to work with this person, etc. Otherwise, and also you find out that our electoral systems are weak. It's deliberate. Because once we have a robust electoral system and we're able to choose who we want on our own terms, then the politics of money disappears. So it's a catch-22. The present crop of politicians will never allow the electoral system to be so robust. Let me give you an example. Why do we, every 4 years or every electoral cycle, have to budget so much money for police? Look at the obscene amount of money that was given to Professor Yakubu, and it delivered a deeply flawed election. Servers were crashing.
2023.
So even his predecessor, the biometric card of the former president, his wife and his mother-in-law wouldn't recognize him. And I just listened to an interview where he said, at that point in time, I should have cancelled and say something is really wrong. Go and fix this. If the biometric system put by the electoral body does not recognize the president, that is shocking. So, you know, those are the issues. And then you come, I mean, when you think about obscene amount of money that was poured into those elections, then you come to his predecessor, Professor Yaku, who had promised heaven and earth, how everything was going to. We were hearing all sorts of terminologies like IREVs and servers and this, and then all of a sudden those servers collapsed, etc. So the present crop of politicians would ensure that people don't have that independence to choose, because once you have a robust electoral system and you're able to choose, there's no need for money anymore. So they kept on saying, oh, you cannot allow this. There's no reason your phone or these new gadgets, they all have facial recognition for you to access your bank, which is about the most secure organization where you store your money.
Right.
Nobody can access your phone if it doesn't recognize you or there's no biometric. If we can do that successfully, and we'll make sure these things work, we're able to, you know, guard against loss of our funds. Why don't we have electronic voting in Nigeria? Why do we have to keep rolling out mobile policemen, paying for allowances, rolling out people? Why are we encouraging ballot snatching? Why are we? Some places, elections have to start maybe like a day before, or crossover, because people are crossing water in the riverine areas, in the deep south, where you have all the mangroves and everything. In the elections that brought in General Muhammadu Buhari, you had Boko Haram ravaging some parts in northern Nigeria, and people were even attacked. You have underage children in northern Nigeria. We saw the pictures. They all had cards. These systems were not able to detect that the children were underage. So these are deeply flawed. If we're able to do biometrics and everything, and people just sit down in their homes and just cast their vote. The NBA has been doing it for about 10 years now.
Right. It's quite a complicated situation. I mean, you have talked about very extensively the electoral process, how flawed it is. Recently, the calls for the president to be stripped of the power to appoint the chairman of INEC and all the resident electoral commissioners has become even louder and more vehement. Would that answer some of the questions we ask?
Because the first name of INEC is independent, Independent National Electoral Commission.
Right.
And we saw, if not for the outcry, in the last the elections, I think it was the second Buhari elections or so, where
2019,
where he appointed, it was between, was it 2019? The first one was 2015,
right?
2019, where a couple of months before the elections, he appointed his niece as an INEC commissioner, and there was an outcry from civil society. This person is your niece, and you actually grew up with her mom. So you could see all the gatekeeping and safeguarding they were trying to do. You might think it's innocent, but it runs deeper than that. If the president is allowed or able to appoint his niece, and if people were not vigilant, and then they say, oh, she's going to be in the office, she's not going to be on the field, she's not going to be in a position to influence policy or something. Bollocks. You saw the same way the president was able to muscle his way and remove the former Chief Justice of Nigeria with an ex parte order from a very obscure court that ordinarily people don't even hear of. So these are dangerous things for us. There has to be complete independence if we want a completely independent work. The chairman of INEC is, even though he needs to go to the National Assembly and it has to be, you know, ratified and all, still would feel immensely grateful to the president. That's why all of them keep saying, oh, I thank the president for this opportunity to serve. I thank this. How do you bite the fingers that feed you?
So let's just drill down a little into political parties and all of that. President Bola Tinubu, from what we know today, will stand for re-election in 2027, all else equal. But there are now political parties, in particular some political figures, who believe that there's need to unseat him. A while ago, I was talking to another gentleman about the motive behind this coalition, as we hear. Do you think this approach is working? Is it making headway?
Well, good luck to them. But President Bola Tinubu is not from the same mold as President Goodluck Jonathan. President Jonathan was a career civil servant for years until, you know...
He joined politics?
Yeah, he was pulled up the structure by his former boss, Alamesia. and all that. President Bola Tinubu is a hardened veteran. He's now like a career politician since he left Mobile. He's been in the Senate since they quashed Third Republic.
Right.
Yeah, and it's been no going back for him. And you can see how he cooled his heels till he became president. He presented all the notables. He presented Atiku, presented Nuru Ribadu, presented General Buhari. As a matter of fact, I went to General Buhari to lobby him. After General Buhari, I said he was never going to run again. Right. I'd been whipped 3 times. Mm-hmm. You know? And in the famous Abeokuta declaration, the translation, the loose translation was, I went to Kaduna to go and see him, and I told him you would run again, and he said, no, I'm not running. He had even wept on TV after he lost and said he wasn't going to run. But President Tinubu was able to devise that formula and say, you are not having a handshake across to Niger. You're deeply popular in the north. You have a cult following. You're always returning like 12 million votes, etc. But you're clannish. People are not voting for you across the country. You need a geographical spread, two-thirds, etc. And broke down the formula to him and said, we can form a merger. So he didn't present himself.
Right.
He put out all the political leverage. So when he now put a placeholder there, and the placeholder was trying to be funny, he came down vehemently on the placeholder, and he challenged the system. So good luck to those people who, he might be frail and not be as sharp as he was as governor of Lagos 2 decades ago, but it will be interesting if they will be able to challenge an incumbent president who is battle-hardened, like Jagaba, compared to a Goodluck Jonathan who kind of stumbled upon the position and often times felt as if the agbada he was wearing was too big for him. I think that was one of the major problems of President Goodluck Jonathan. He wasn't assertive enough, or he didn't wield power effectively. With all the drama that happened with his previous boss and him being prevented from being there, he had to take the doctrine of necessity with the National Assembly to put him there. So he came in with a chipped Achilles heel, and he didn't allow that one to heal quickly and focus on the job. So he always felt like he was limping as a president.
What do we say to people, for example, who say that, look, yes, you have talked about what stands President Bola Tinubu out. You said he's battle-hardened and all of that, right? But there are people who would say, look, he did it in 2014, the amalgamation of political parties, the ANPP as it then was, the ACN and what have you. They say, well, the likes of the Mark, Atiku, Abubakar, Sule Lamido, of course you have the likes of former governor of Sokoto State, Minut Tambuwal, and quite a number of other notable politicians in this country can replicate that same model. You don't share that sentiment, do you?
I don't think so. The difference is that when he formed those mergers, he was doing it against a weak president, as I said. He wasn't doing it against a man who knew how to wield power. President Bola Tinubu does. Because Goodluck Jonathan, due respect to him, he was deputy governor, then he became governor. He hadn't even had a chance to really become governor properly when he was tapped again to become vice president. So most times of his life, he was always deputizing and understudying. He had not wielded a big knife himself. There's a lot of difference. There was a lot of political inexperience there. If he wasn't even politically inexperienced, he would have, taken charge more when his boss was ill and there was all sorts of whatever. So he just kept, going into the shadows. I didn't want to rock the boat or something. You need to rock the boat. If President Bola Tinubu did not rock the boat in Abeokuta with his Abeokuta declaration, that was a declaration of war. That was when, even the vice president himself knew, he had stirred the honest nest, the former vice president, Samuel Shibagi. Yeah. You need it will be very difficult for someone, as I said, who has that level of experience and exposure. You have been governor for 8 years, is current political kingmaker, etc. He formed parties and mergers. You've got to give it to him that he seems to have entrenched himself that long in a very cosmopolitan and volatile state like Lagos State. So, as I said, it's not as if it's not infallible. Old age, poor health, these are the factors. And it's only God that owns life. Who knows who's going to be alive in 2027? Even we pray for good life or good health, but nobody knows the future.
Do you think it's possible to bring a measure of reforms into the way our political parties are run? For example, we understand that there are groups now lobbying, pushing applications for INEC to get them registered as political parties going into the next cycle of the general election. Of course, the coalition group has also made efforts to join the SDP, which we understand fell apart, and then they went to the ADC, which didn't pull through, gave a thought to ADA. That in itself was not seeing the light of day. Now they're back to the ADC and all of that. Trying to register more parties, because they said the more the merrier. Open up the space, inclusive participation, inclusive government, blah, 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 blah. Are we properly aligned for governance from this angle?
The answer is neither here or there. The more the merrier, yes. It opens up the democratic playing field, etc. It also means it's more expensive for INEC. The production of the electoral materials, making sure all these parties are captured. INEC is spread out thin. They don't even have enough capacity or staff to be able to supervise all the primaries for these parties, really observe during their internal party elections and etc. Also, what dent really can these parties make? How many political parties do we have in Nigeria now? I don't know, but you can only remember maybe like 3, 4, 5. There was one that was with Kenneth Mohalu, the former.
It was YPP at the time for him.
Kenneth Mohalu. There's one with my very good friend Showore. Then you have the Labour. Then you have the Zenith Labour Party, and then you have the big wigs that produce the governors and everything. The problem here is that these political parties, or the fringe political parties that come in and win some sort of positions for themselves, who would eventually amalgamate or merge with the ruling party for political survival. You've seen it happen twice now. A lot of these politicians or newbies that came in on the back of Labour Party, riding on the popularity of Peter Obi then, when they got to the National Assembly, what did they do? They all merged with
the APC.
That's what they did. And you can see that happening now even with PDP governors. Delta State, Akwa Ibom. Because if they don't, they just feel like, hey man, there's a moving train coming, and if you don't get out of the tracks, everybody's going to be mowed down. I want my political survival. So that's the thing. Where life is short, brutish, and nasty, man looks out for himself first and tries to survive.
Do you have concerns around this theory around one-party system?
I'm not comfortable with it. I think there should be voices of dissent. There should be different opinion. But that's just me talking. I don't know if maybe a one-party system might even be good for Nigeria. Take, for instance, China. China is a one-party system, which emerged from the days of communism, and see where China is. We need to develop a system that is indigenous to us.
And you think we don't have that right now?
Not yet. This brand of democracy which we're practicing is not healthy, and it's not beneficial to us. We need to develop our own political system that really fits us and works for us. We had one before, but it wasn't allowed to thrive and survive. And that was option A4, that produced what many recognize as the freest and fairest election ever in the history of Nigeria. So until we're able to develop something indigenous that really works, so maybe we're going to go back to option A4. There must be a reason why we never went back to option A4. And that reason is because a lot of political heavyweights were flawed. Right. So as I said, politicians would not want to allow that level of freedom to the electorate to be able to choose. So you see, those are the issues. If we agree that June 12 was the freest, fairest elections ever, why haven't we sustained option A4 and make it work for us? Why are we, all this, we're just busy chasing air.
Interesting. Well, there are people who have said that we need to de-emphasize money in our politics. But that doesn't seem to be something feasible, at least in the short term, given the amount of money that goes into politics in Nigeria. For example, there's now some projection that post-2027 general election, litigation could go as high as between 500 million and 1 billion.
It's already
the case, right?
So that's already the case now. Most gubernatorial or presidential elections, they don't cost less than $1 billion naira.
All the way from the tribunal to the Supreme Court.
They don't cost less than $1 billion. Probably it will cost more now. Anytime you're running for office, you have to make sure that you
set funds apart for that.
For legal, because the other party, it's not everybody who's going to be like Good Luck Jonathan that'll say, hey man, I'm not going down this route and no blood of any of my citizens worth spilling. Some people just like to play spoilers, and they'll play the spoiler all the way to the Supreme Court until you're able to negotiate with them.
Let's again talk about the internals of political parties. Somebody was saying this morning that even for some area council election in Abuja here, councillors were, would-be councillors, aspiring councillors were buying nomination form for as high as 1.5 million. Now, the logic behind that is to say that this person is naturally expected to whip up money from their breast pocket, for example, to pay for all of these processes. And then you expect them to get into office and not find a way to recoup whatever they had spent while they were vying for office and things like that. And then on election day proper, you hear of things like vote buying and all that. In 2023, we heard that vote buying had evolved from what we had seen in 2015 and 2019 cycles. There's a lot to be cleaned up. A lot of house cleaning here is required, for example. How much of work do we have in front of us?
Oh, a lot of work. Even the APC sold the presidential forms for 100 million naira. Right. So these people would generally go in there and that's the first thing they want to recoup. So there's a lot of work that we have to do. The question is, do we want to do the work? That's the thing. It's not unusual for money to be a part of elections. Logistics cost a lot of money. Renting the halls, driving the campaign train, but what some countries do, and I like to use the two countries which we have practiced the kind of democracy which they've given us, the British and the Americans. So there's a cap on it. There's how much you can't spend above a certain limit as an individual in the U.S. elections, for instance. Right. And all these donations are made public, and that was why there was a lot of public outcry on Elon Musk and the amount he donated, and how he seemed to be trying to dominate and being ever present in the Oval Office until things went awry between him. Exactly, and you see that in the UK as well. There are more silent donors in the United Kingdom, but it doesn't mean that they don't lobby fiercely behind in the parties and everything. So it all just depends on how vigilant and alert the regulatory bodies are. Here, we're a cash economy, so it makes a lot of things difficult. You don't have it. And that was what Emefiele was trying to do craftily, and it blew up spectacularly in his face. The former governor of CBN, it was ridiculous and abominable that a governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria would ever contemplate descending to the arena of politics.
Was he being the governor of the Apex Bank?
Yes, his boss never sacked him, never questioned him. Where did he get all that kind of money from? Where did he even get that audacity from to think, having access to a lot of funds must really do something cookie to a lot of people in the head? And he thought it would. And now, him being one of the participants, so to speak, now tries to shut the door or make it difficult for the others by changing the currency, the color of the currency, and etc. It would have been a very mean president if he had come out, because the kind of stuff that he was doing then, it was playing dirty politics. Already showed that if he was given so much power, nobody would have been able to control him. So those are the issues. Those are the issues. We really need sincere people, to be able to be gatekeepers for us and ensure that this works. In the event that one man who is not even supposed to be in the political race now goes in there and tries to muzzle the other people, that's crazy. If he had done it from an independent position as CBN governor, and then maybe people would have been able to believe in him. As I said earlier, it's a cash economy. We just see Ghana must goes flying around. When Emefiele tried to do what he did with Naira by changing the currency, and people just simply switched to dollars, and you can see the price of the dollar went up in the black market. And the political savvy ones were using bitcoins and all sorts of digital currencies. Yeah.
We're taking a break with you, but I want to talk to you about something else. We've seen a handful of governors move from their parties, particularly the PDP, to the APC. In fact, we're hearing now that a few more governors will move. One of those governors that have been named is Bayelsa State Governor Doyodimi. Is it not possible, or is it not the case even, that it is the internal conflict within the PDP that redirects, so to speak, these governors into the fold of the APC?
Do you want to take the question now after the break?
Yeah, we'll do that before the break.
Yeah. If the political parties were safe and everybody was happy, then nobody would be thinking of migrating, so to speak. Once there's a division and you're unsure, first and foremost, it's the fight for political survival. Will I come back? Will I be able to elongate my tenure? Or will I be able to finish the projects and the legacies which I want? And if you see that, whatever is happening in your party is not going to allow you to do that, and the other party say, hey, can you come join us? We're going to ensure that you win. You will jump ship. It's very simple. Because we don't resign in Nigeria. That is the unfortunate thing. If you know that there's a crisis and the other party is vile to you, you're ideologically different, why should you go for a second term? It's not compulsory. You could have just said, hey, thank you very much, I've had a good run, this is it for me, instead of going to but we don't play principles, party principles or politics of principles. No, we hardly resign. So even though when people do the honorable thing and they resign, it becomes huge news and everybody is confused on how to handle it. Because we don't do such thing. We don't encourage people to do the right thing.
Well, maybe the right thing to do at this point is to quickly hit a break in the course of this conversation. When we return, we'll look at a few other concerns regarding how internal issues play out within political parties. And in this regard, the APC, which is the ruling party in the country today, is not an exception to this reality. All of that and more will be unpacked when we return, please. Don't go away. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Let's look at the different, standpoints to this conversation. We have had a culture in this system, this country since 1999. Some people credit that to former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. I'm not so sure how correct that is, but they say that when you have a system where the president is the de facto leader of a political party at the federal level, and then the governor, as the chief executive of a state, is also the de facto leader of the party at the state level, is that an aberration? In the case where you have national chairman, you have state chairman, for example.
Yeah, it's all about ensuring political survival. The party chairman is supposed to be the head of the political party. They determine who comes in, who gets what and everything. But Chief Obasanjo quickly realized that after the first elections, because there was an order of elections which was customary in Nigeria, and Chief Olusegun Obasanjo lobbied his way with the National Assembly to change that. It usually starts from the lower cadre, and the presidential election is the apex.
Right.
So you find out that we do the local government elections, then we do governorship, then we House of Assembly, and then we do presidency last. But he realized during his first term that waiting where all those other structures are there were dangerous to him because they determine who becomes president.
Right.
And he realized how powerful the governors were. And that was why they changed the order of things so that the president
comes first.
And then once that structure is in place, he's able to now determine who becomes governor. He's able to deploy troops, the police, the army, and everything into all these places. So it was all about political survival. And, here is where we are. So if a party chairman even has a different opinion or a different candidate, he can't say so because he doesn't have that kind of executive powers like the governor would have, or the president will have to deploy troops or to deploy the police. It is just party chairman in name alone. The best they can do is the shenanigans which they do at the party secretariats where people's names are switched and they don't emerge on the forms, or some people's forms disappear mysteriously. That's about so it reduces them to the level of cunningness and plots and all that. But in the actual power itself, they've been schemed out of it. The party can hardly discipline the governor. And that you saw that happen in River State, which was our opening lines there. Yeah, nobody can discipline, could discipline Governor Wike, even now as minister. He's still in PDP. He works with, he's in PDP like an APC man. And the president trusts him very well. He's in the limelight.
Sounds like a brand conflict.
It is conflict, but it tells you, okay, I'm working for the country, I'm working for the president.
Right.
Well, the PDP can't do without. The problem in the PDP cannot be resolved without Mr. Nyesom Wike.
Why is that the case?
Because it has them by the jugular. It cannot be resolved. It was. I think the political strategy of the former vice president has shown that he made a huge miscalculation by making an enemy out of Nyesom Wike. He probably, or people will probably have told him, hey, this guy is very assertive. You're going to have challenges in controlling him, etc. He himself, being the vice president before, ought to have known that the powers of the vice president are limited.
Right.
They're spare tire. He should have been more engaging and willing to, manage Wike. So he decided to go for the governor of another oil-rich state in Delta, which is, it doesn't have the political clout which Wike has. And that person he chose has now become to the APC to save himself, to save political survival, which I'm talking about. So when the heavens were going to fall, he said, hey man, I better run into the political party that's going to be able to save me. If I remain in PDP, I won't survive. And he will have, been harassed with EFCC, the normal tricks in the book would have been flung at him. But, even Wike himself, gravitated towards the APC. He might not be a card-carrying member of APC, but he's as APC in his blood as ever, because he would always ensure that the president is in good light and he works for the president.
Let's talk about the way political parties throw up candidates, the selection process within the parties. They call them primaries, for example. We have always heard and seen and read about cases of obscurity, lack of transparency in that process. We have seen cases where INEC would categorically say, well, we do not endorse the process that produced so-and-so candidates and things like that. So they call it cash and carry kind of politics, where a candidate comes from nowhere with deep pockets, buys particular support in the party and things like that. What more do we need to do to help, if you like, rework that aspect of our politicking within political parties, where the best man wins tickets, not just because you've been there long enough, not just because, well, the godfathers have anointed you, as they say.
Well, INEC itself is deeply flawed. They need to re-examine themselves and decide who and what they are. INEC is supposed to be a regulator.
Right.
And they're even supposed to be part of they're part and parcel of the process from the beginning. They're part of the forming of the parties, because a party cannot be formed successfully without INEC's supervision and then INEC's approval. What do you make of it when these political parties now go to the electoral tribunal and they join INEC as a party, being the regulator, and INEC starts behaving as a political party itself, as an adversary, challenging the parties and everything? They're supposed to be a regulator. Speak the truth to power. Tell the courts the truth. Then INEC becomes so difficult, and maybe in swearing one candidate in, or in providing one information or the other. INEC now starts holding itself out like a political party itself, and you start wondering, is INEC an adversary or a supervisor? So it starts from the regulatory body itself. Then it goes, if who goes to equity must go with clean hands. If the regulator himself is deeply flawed, how do you supervise and control the political parties? And how do you ensure that the right candidates emerge from those political parties? And then the political parties, as I said earlier, people are hungry, and it's deliberate, because that's the only way you can control the people. If you don't have a robust system in place, like the option A4, which I talked about, you are going to have the cash and carry or carry-go kind of politics, which we're talking about. Because the people are hungry, and the only time they see you is once every 4 years. They're going to milk you when that period comes. And if you're prepared for them, you just, it's like throwing the corn, and all the birds and all the fowl just go after it. That's it. It's going to be very difficult if we don't have, a robust system in place where it's not all about money. If we don't have a system in place where everybody is independent, or at least majority of people are independent, and they don't have to keep looking up to a politician to solve every issue for them. Once the electorate is dependent on politicians in their personal capacities to solve their problems, you're not going to get the right person there.
Our guest earlier this morning talked about how that one of the challenges we're dealing with right now, especially now that we're having this conversation around 2027 election, is that we still have the old guard in place. So he says until there is a shift, maybe a very radical one, from what it is today, away from the articles, from the OBs even, all right, from the Tinubus and the likes, we're not going to get it right. So let's use that as a basis to talk about youth participation in politics, for example. Is that coming on strong?
Well, General Babangida tried to weed out the old breed. Remember that time, the old breed and the new breed, and they put the Yaraduas of this world in jail. Yaradua, Babade Dibu in Ibadan, and a couple of others. They just rounded them up if it was military regime and put them away, cancelled the elections, and then that paved the way for Chief MKO Abiola and a couple of other people to emerge. And what happened? He became law unto himself and still cancelled Chief MKO Abiola's elections. I hear about it, not too young to run bill, etc. It's like affirmative action, isn't it? Trying to help them get a foot in the door and all. The answer is neither here nor there. If you have a child who refuses to walk, and every time you have to keep picking up that child and everything, you're probably going to delay the process of walking. But if you show the child how to walk, how to crawl, how to get down the stairs, they're probably going to learn faster. So we must allow an environment without necessarily giving them handovers, where the youth are able to organize themselves and break through the system. There's nobody as capable intellectually like the Nigerian youth to break into politics, and they can run rings like around this older generation of older men. And you saw it happen with NSAS when we had this pivotal movement in Nigeria, and the old guard were just responding in an analog way, and these kids were running circles around them digitally until the use of brute force was used to clamp down on them, and send in the army and just massacred people until then were they able to crush it. So I think if the youth are allowed to expose or showcase themselves with the use of technology, IT and everything, and that's the reason probably why these biometrics and voting with our phone and using facial recognition and everything is not being deployed by the old guard, because they're scared. They're very scared of technology. You'll be surprised how many of them, a lot of them can just basically send text messages on their phone and WhatsApp. Lots of them don't know how to use the computer or the internet. Everything is done by their secretaries. So technology confuses the older generation. People maybe in their late 50s and 60s. I have a couple of colleagues who don't even know how to use a computer. They can't type. They just write out their briefs in longhand and give it to their secretary to type it. Because thank God for mobile phones that allow people to be able to text and use WhatsApp. So that might be a way out. The use of new technologies in our election. I think it would make a difference. Now, the second leg of it is, are these youths ready to take charge? Do they have the capacity to run? This newer generation that you see, there's a disconnection in the kind of value system which we grew up with. They are the generation of instant food, instant noodle. Everything was ready in 5 minutes. They just want it sharp, sharp, sharp. There's no sustainability. There's no organic process. They're so very into themselves. They spend a lot of their times on their phones and everything. They're antisocial. Everything is just different. It's a different landscape. There's our species, you and I, our generation, we're becoming extinct. We're like dinosaurs now. These new human beings being formed are very different, and they think very different from the way we think. So, are we prepared for that change? Because when they emerge and power really gets into their hands, maybe they're going to banish all of us to old people's homes.
Well, that's quite hilarious. I'd like to say a big thank you to you.
You're welcome.
For coming to share your thoughts on this very important issue this morning. We'll keep our eye out on the developments towards 2027. Because as they say, just getting started, we'll see what happens with the coalition and how that squares up, hopefully, with the ruling All Progressives Congress and what that benefit will bring for Nigeria. We'll take a break now shortly. Jumai Manson and I will draw the curtains on the program today. Do stay with us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What's your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Issues of Nigerian politics have never been exhausted in the course of any TV program, right? So what can we do? We just take it one step at a time, bit by bit, break by break. You know, when people say, well, you need patience to eat an elephant.
Yeah.
I've never beaten off an elephant, but it's not really about elephants. It's a way of saying that there are things that require you to be patient.
Yes.
So you can be disciplined enough.
Yes.
To go right through the process, like Barrister Kola Alakpini said. He said some processes have to be organic.
Yes.
Because there are people who want it to be instant, sharp. They don't believe in process.
Yes.
So no long-term projection whatsoever.
Yes.
It's pretty much the same to Nigerian politics.
I think with that adage of the elephant, eating it bit by bit, all about, an elephant is a very huge animal.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what is in front of you. It doesn't matter how big it is or how huge it is. You take it one step at a time, bit by bit. And I think that's what it is with the Nigerian politics. And of course, with politicians as well. Whatever huge promises they've made and all of that, understand that they're humans. And we should just take it a day at a time to believe, and a day at a time to actually scale through all of these issues in Nigeria. And with time, everything is going to be fine. Just one step at a time, really.
Right. Well, what more can we say? It's another day to be alive. A lot will be happening today, no doubt about that. In the area of politics, yes, we understand the political parties are dealing with their challenges. But there's an aspect of the conversation that's also very interesting. It's really nothing new. It's the fact that there are now calls to say, let's have more women, all right, in the ring. So
Great.
Let's allow more women access into the political space.
Very important.
So this is not just about gender balance. It's also about having to tap from the resources that women are blessed with in such a way that we can all together put our hands on the plow and move the country forward. A while ago, Barrister Alakpini and myself were talking about youth participation.
Very important. Very important.
All right, so that we don't continue to have people in their mid-60s and older driving the process, because ultimately they are going to hand over the what if you like, call it mantle, so those coming from behind. What would those people be able to do by the time they get into those positions when they have not been properly mentored and, of course, tutored as well? So let's have more women in the space. But again, as they say, because I've spoken with women about this subject time and again, and they say that nobody gives you anything for free. Nobody calls you and says, because you're a woman, come take power. You've got to fight for it. You've got
to earn it.
There. Yes, you have to earn it. All right, put in the work like everyone else, because the realities of life do not have regards for gender. I mean, they don't really care whether you're a woman or
a man. I mean, I've seen women who attend almost all the political meetings, even those that run into, late into the night, and all of that. So if you say you're a woman, I love my bed, I can't be seen outside after 8 p.m., and then you need to realize that there are women who attend meetings that start at 9 o'clock and won't end until 4 a.m. Well, if you can't take the heat, you know what they say. Get
the H out of the kitchen. But the truth is, it's not all about a woman coming out. It takes support groups, individuals, women supporting women. And I know in the past, women have been in politics. I just don't want to mention names that have let women down when it comes to the areas, the sectors in which they were given. Public service, who have not given their all in public service, who have actually, some will say, have let us down. That is why we feel the men, let the men go ahead to rule. But you cannot generalize all women. Right. All women, they're all different in their own spheres of life. So it's very important that for as much as women want to go into politics and be part of this agenda when it comes to the space where the men are, women need that support. And men too need to support us as women. It's very important because there are lots of women out there who have a lot to give positively in the political space. It's just unfortunate that this is what it is. A lot of women who have been opportune to be there have not done so well, but there are some who try as much as possible to hold the mantle and keep the light on for women behind, to understand that, hey, women, it's a very powerful fold to belong to. Women, youths especially, because youths, their brains are fresh, they have new ideas, forces to drive things forward and all of that. But at the same time, we need to look into it, and it's just a support system. They go a long way. Not just women supporting women, also men understanding that women have a lot to bring when it comes to impact, when it comes to implementation, when it comes to being subtle, when it comes not just bringing the soft side and giving that blend, the soft and the hard side with the men, just blending together and bringing that balance that we all need. So the more we understand that women have a lot to offer and bring them on the table goes a long way, I think it will be the better for us as Nigerians and in this political space in which we find ourselves.
Well, I think that's brilliantly said. But again, we will continue to drive this conversation, especially on occasions where we have the International Women's Day or Women's Week or Women's Month.
Women in diplomacy.
Right. The Girl Child Day.
Very important.
Things like that, because we must continue to pull our women along. I mean, let's be fair to women. They've done an amazingly well in the last 20, 25 years. I mean, at the turn of the new century, I mean, these the 2000s, women have shown that they can do far more than we can expect.
Exactly.
Whether it's in academia, career, parenting.
Oh, yes.
Women have shown that we can get a lot from them. Even in politics, for example. We've seen how people like former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, did actually recognize this fact.
Oh, yes, they did.
And took advantage of the, all of the capabilities and competences that women have, and we saw how much of a difference that made in this country at that point in time.
And to add a little bit of icing on the cake, of course, women are a force to reckon with when it comes to decision making. There's some, you don't even go there with me. I don't think you win this war. But the truth is all the same. We appreciate when men give us that support, and as the same is vice versa. Men too, they have a lot that they bring to the table. There's some men out there who actually drive that force, and they actually get that achievement done. It's very important. And all likewise women, we learn. It's a balance. For me, I don't see any gender greater than one gender. I feel you can be about, although we understand the men, you do a lot. Yes, yada, yada. We understand. We still appreciate all the men out there. But I think it's a time for women to be heard, for women to give back. A woman can multitask. You cannot as a man. So give us the opportunity. I'm sure we'll make the most and the best out of it. Yes. Hi, all women in the world.
Well, women,
of course.
Always behind them. We just can't wait to see them continue to shine and be the bright lights that they are.
Yes, we are.
Well, that's what we're living in program.
Yes, we are.
Also, big thank you to everyone for watching. Remember that the views of our guests, their opinions. I'm Uyi Agumofwe.
And I am Jumai Manson. Thank you all so much for being a part of Global Morning today. Have an amazing day ahead. Bye-bye.